Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Women in Tech Series event. I'm thrilled to have all you here tonight to hear from our guest speaker, Sarah Bertagnolli, who is a Chief Technology and Operation Officer at LSI. Sarah has a lot of experience in tech industry, particularly in program management within the banking sector, so I'm really sure that we have to learn a lot from her today. But before we begin, I just want to take some of your seconds and to highlight the impact that Clarusway has had on women in tech industry. So as some of you may know, Clarusway is a leading tech training company, or let's say a bootcamp, that helps countless women with no technical background or with a little technical background, let's say, to develop the skills they need to succeed in the industry. So many of their graduates have gone to land their dream jobs at top companies and building six-figure salaries. So I just wanted to mention this and say that we are honored to have Clarusway as a supporter of this event. And now I would like to turn our attention to our esteemed guest, Sarah Bertagnolli. Sarah, it's an honor to have you here tonight with us. And I have a very quick question. I was not pretty sure about your surname. Do I pronounce as a Bertagnolli or the Italian pronunciation as Bertagnoli, I believe? So how do we pronounce it?
Yeah, the G silent. You got it.
Okay, the Italian pronunciation, right? Bertagnoli. All right. Yeah. Okay, so Sarah, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so as you know, we've got some questions. We want to learn as much as we can from you. So since you had a very vibrant career, as I could see on your resume on LinkedIn, so can you tell us about your background and what actually inspired you to pursue a career in tech industry? You know, like how did you get started?
Absolutely. Welcome. I want to say thanks for having me. We at LSI work with Clarusway a lot, and we appreciate everything that they do and love collaborating with them on different opportunities. And so, but yes, in IT, I think it started right in high school. I took a computer class from a teacher who I'm still friends with today, and I was hooked. So I loved being on the leading edge of, at the time, because I'm probably much older than a lot of people on this call, you know, that it was on the leading edge of this new phenomenon that everyone was so afraid of, computers and technology. So about 25 years ago, when I graduated with my first degree in computer science, I quickly knew that I did not love coding like I thought I would, but I did love technology, and I knew I wanted to stay in that field. I started an internship right after, like I said, my first degree, and they let me work half day on operations and half day on IT just to kind of figure out where you want to go. Because bless those people who go to college and know exactly what they want to do and never sway. But the majority of us have an idea and an area or industry we love, and then we go and it may not be exactly what we think, or there may be tentacles to that, right? So after about 6 months, I knew I wanted to continue down the path of technology. And so at that company, I went full-time IT, and I was an IT systems analyst, which kind of encompassed everything from upgrading servers, unlocking passwords, being on the help desk. And I was in that position for 4 years through the Y2K debacle, where we all thought planes were going to fall out of the sky and all the systems were going to crash. But and then I took a job at Wells Fargo. That's a large bank, I'm sure everyone's familiar with, as a network admin. And I was the only woman on a team of about 20 males. So naturally, when we were doing upgrades and projects, I was always the one tasked with creating the project plan or writing the requirements, because I guess they thought naturally women are the designated scribes, right, at that time. But from that, I really found out that I loved kind of marrying up the IT side and the business side that a lot of times doesn't communicate well together, right? Or doesn't understand each other's sides. So from there, I was recruited by a large regional bank where they owned 8 different banks in different states and kept them as their local brandings. And I was at that financial institution for about 17 years and held positions of project manager, business analyst, program manager. And when I left, I was a portfolio management over technology and operations. And then I was asked to come recruited here at LSI for Chief of Technology and Operations, where I've been for 2 years.
Okay, oh, that's an amazing career, I believe, more than 20 years. And yeah, I would like to emphasize that the thing that you said about, you know, people who know what they want to be, and when they are 18, it's not that easy. It was kind of the same with me. I went into cinema and television, into filming, and then I understood that, well, it was a mistake to do that. It was not my thing. So I moved to tech industry later. So that's why we want to encourage people to, you know, even though you don't have to do like the thing that you started when you were 18, because it's not the age where you exactly know what you want. Some people do, as you said, God bless them.
Yeah.
but not everyone.
I was not one.
Yeah. So I would like to continue with another question, which is about the inclusion of women in tech industry. And beside, like, you know, what is said, what is being done, we still know that tech industry remains behind in terms of women's inclusion, right? At least that's what we think. So what are some of the biggest challenges you have faced as a woman in tech industry, you know, and how may you have overcome them? Because you mentioned that you were working in a team of 20 people, 21 people, where 20 people were male. So I believe that it was a tough, difficult job.
Yeah. I would say I've been fortunate in my career. The male bosses I've had for the most part were supportive, mentored me, but the challenges that I did face were more around being a single mom of 2 boys while trying to build my career, right? So I think that would have happened whether I was in IT or a different, you know, industry. But I'm also in a state where the culture norm is women staying home to rear their children, right? So there were times I'd have to leave early or receive calls during the workday because I was the sole provider of my kids. And that would at times be used, I felt like, in decision making of whether I could handle a certain upgrade or project or an undertaking, right? I worked with men that had, you know, partners at home taking care of all of that for them, so they could be there from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. So I had to work harder, I felt like, to get to where I am. I mean, at one point I was driving into the office years ago, 5 days a week, you know, 45-minute commute each way, which some people probably double that each way in their commutes. But, and this is when working at home wasn't even really talked about. And so I just was losing all, you know, an hour and a half each day with that. And if, you know, anything came up with family life or kids, and I just went to my boss and said, here's my value I bring to the table. And if you value that, you're going to, you know, I'd like to ask that I work from home 2 or 3 days a week, or I'm going to look for something elsewhere. Right. And kind of just pitched them this pilot of, you know, that bank had 10,000 employees, 1,800 of them were in IT, and no one was really working from home at that point. So he reluctantly said yes. And, you know, and as all of you know, when you work at home, I feel like the employer gets a lot more out of us than when we're at the office, right? We're at the office, people are interrupting, there's chat in the, you know, cafeteria, there's leaving for lunches. So they really do, because you don't have the commute, you're not getting ready, so to speak. So you get a lot of time out of them. But during that time, I just actually hunkered down and focused on execution and my delivery that kind of paved the way for my next few promotions. So I felt like being, not that maybe men, I can't speak for them, would not have these challenges, right? But I felt like being that single mom and in a culture where it's heavily that women don't work, that was a challenge. And then I think another challenge is people in the room valuing your opinion the same as your male counterpart, right? So I wasn't going to be the one to ride any of these kind of women's movement trains that were going on, and no offense to them. I just wanted to get to where I am, or where I was going, on my own merit. So I just stayed consistent in my approach. And once they knew, you know, that they can count on you, the rest kind of speaks for itself. But this doesn't mean I didn't have times where they would brush off what I would say or challenge me, but I just stuck to the data and the facts and didn't bring emotion into it.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. You know, and at the same time, I don't know if I would like to, I would consider you lucky to be in this situation, but at least you had people who were quite supportive of you. Maybe, yeah, maybe a lot of women are not having that opportunity, and from here we just want to tell people like to try to be supportive to them. And actually, when it comes to women, I just would like to thank my wife, actually, because when I decided to get into the tech, and then I went through boot camps, and I was working full time, so it was very hard, but she was there to support me all the time. So now, actually, we have decided that she will get into the tech industry, and I hope I can be as supportive as she was. So
I love it. I'll hold you to it.
so let's spread the message to the world. All right. So I would like to talk about a bit about boot camps, actually. So as you know, like IT industry is changing really fast, right? It's not like in some of other industries where with the information that you have, maybe you can go for 20 or 30 years, but when it comes to the IT industry, maybe your knowledge can get outdated in 2 years, 3 years, maybe sometimes even in months, right, for certain topics. So that's why we know that upskilling is a successfully professional career, right? Upskilling. So like at Clarusway, we get a lot of IT professionals who want to specialize in new technologies, improve their skills. So like, what do you think is the role of boot camps or training courses in this point? Like in the point of filling the demands of employees who want to upskill themselves. Like, how helpful do you think those kind of programs are?
Sure. So I think upskilling plays a critical role in staying current in IT. IT is rapidly evolving. It has a rapidly evolving nature, and new technologies and techniques are constantly emerging. And professionals need to continually develop and refine your skills to stay competitive, right? So there are going to be positions some of you hold or can hold today or do where you're managing teams of developers or cyber engineers or testers, and you don't need to know everything that they need to know to manage them effectively, but you need to understand enough that you can help solution intelligently, right? So the business, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I feel like there's roles even like the business analyst role or project manager. Those exist solely because you have developers, this IT side of the house that doesn't talk the same language as the business. So you've got to be that liaison. And to do that, it's upskilling, educating, taking courses, places like Clarusway, because IT is a whole ecosystem, right? So what I did is I just educated myself on several areas so that I felt confident enough to throw out my perspective or opinion, when solutioning or when challenges arose. I can say I've been in classes from A+, where, A++ where you're building your own servers and tearing out motherboards, to telecommunications and switches. I mean, it's just, it's constantly evolving, and to have your opinion heard, especially as a woman, right, is you've got to stay on top of all of that leading edge technology and skills, and places like Clarusway, I think, help people do that.
Definitely. Well, like that's why I just wanted to get your opinion about this topic, and I just wanted to get more about encouraging, because we are talking about how things work, but like how are some ways of encouraging more women to pursue careers in tech? Because like personally, I'm just going to give a personal opinion. I have seen a lot of advertising going on, a lot of companies mentioning how they are trying to encourage women, but I don't really think much is being done. So, what can companies do to support this diversity and inclusion in the industry? And maybe we as people, what can we do to encourage more women? Like, how would that work?
Sure. So, I mean, first, I think we have got to be able to provide girls at an early stage with equal access to technology education and training, right? And that these programs are in the schools and even at university levels. And some that may be a foreign concept, but I have been in my position now in the work that LSI does. I've been to states across the country where this still isn't happening. So this means actively combating any preconceived biases that still exist in the educational system. It's not an easy feat, but something, like I said, even here at LSI, that we are constantly working on. I think you also need to ensure you work for a company that's not only promoting diversity and inclusion, but you can tangibly see it in practice, right?
Yeah.
Was there a diverse group in your interviews? If you went to it in person, was there diversity in the office? You know, you can, not somebody that's just saying that buzzword but is, you know, executing it. And then when you say, what can we do, is I would say we need to play an active part in mentoring. And people say this, and what I mean is, you know, I've always been on the internship committees, even at my last job. You know, 4 out of my last years there, I took graduates from the University of Utah, where I graduated, for the summer for a 3-month internship for, you know, the last 4 years I was there. And most of them were hired on full time and are still even, you know, at their, you know, in the same positions. But I've mentored at least 2 or 3 people since 2017. So it's, if you're in your area, that's not where it just stops. Like, hey, I got to where I am and I'm in a great spot. So, and I had great mentors, but you have to give back, right? You've got to reach out and help those, you know, women too, that you can mentor and bring along as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and you know, I definitely agree with you with the part where you said that, you know, a lot of companies say, but when it comes to the environment, is not as it is, because nowadays, you know, a lot of companies go with the wind, right? Whatever is let's say, it sounds cool and sounds inclusive. Now, a lot of companies, they say, go with that, but we don't know how inclusive they are. So I hope that the companies will be more inclusive. And now I just want to mention that there are some people who are asking questions from the question and answers part. And I also want to encourage more people to ask, because I just don't want to be these, you know, like a dialogue where I'm the only one asking, and I'm a male. So I give more, let's say, more important to the women asking here. So we've got 2 questions from Monica and Lucy. Can you see them, or do you want me to read them for you?
How would you get practice if you just got your project management certification? I'm in digital marketing, looking to add PM skills formal with real world practice. Okay, so this is a great question. I think it's hard, because I get it. You're in this constant cycle of, you have to get the experience and past performance to get the job, but how do you get it if you can't get a job with it, right? So it's this cycle. So with a project management, I mean, if you've done your, you know, you're working with either getting your PMP or your CAMP, you've got those. I would say you're going to maybe have to reset your expectations in the sense of back it up with the experience. Start with finding project coordinator jobs, right? So here at LSI, we have project coordinators, and they're working in our, you know, program management tool. They're starting with the budgets and with the timelines and with scope. And so as a coordinator, I would say 3 of my best PMs I've ever had at my previous job started as project coordinators, right? And then we had this kind of succession plan where we put them as junior PMs and then PMs, because it's hard for folks to, you know, the practice and of that skill, but until you've had it in real world, it's hard to turn over, you know, a $10 million project to somebody or to a PM. But I would say look for positions that you can start at that may seem to you like they're a little bit of a step back. They're not. You know, you've got the knowledge, now you're just gaining that experience. And then internship programs, I think, are such, you get a lot of great experience. And it's hard, because I understand as internships, they're either not paid or they're paid low, right? But you've got to be willing in a career change or starting out, right? That yes, PMs in our industry here in Utah can make anywhere from, you know, 90 grand to 160 grand. And that's great, but that may not be where you exactly start out after you've got, you know, you've got upskill. So it's just to try to find jobs that are comparable, or, and if you can take one that's maybe not in IT, because I will tell you right now, and I would argue this many times throughout my career, is I took PMs that ran events, right, from an event center. I mean, because the skills that they have, I need them to understand and have a curiosity around IT, right, and to get it. But I can put them in, they can run any project. They don't need to be the SME of that project. They're not the subject matter expert. They can do the process and what they're skilled to do on any type of project. So maybe look at project management opportunities that are outside of IT, maybe in operations, on the business side, because that will help you get that experience. And they are at times less stringent around what they require, in terms of experience to get those. Do you want me to go to the next one too?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. Lucy has also a question. So as I mentioned, I would like to give more less space to the women's questions rather than mine.
As a woman who has faced challenges and achieved success in the tech industry, what advice would you give to those who are just starting their careers to help navigate potential barriers and setbacks? Thank you, Lucy. I think that's a great question. For those who are just starting off, I think IT industry is very complex. We've talked about it being constantly evolving. So I think it's important to have a genuine interest in technology and the ways it can improve people's lives. So you've got to have that there. I think that first and foremost. Two is, I think, learning coding languages. Even though I came out of my first degree in computer science and thought, yeah, there's no way in hell I want to build web pages or do C++. I don't want to do it, right? That's not, I went to school. It's not what I want to do. But if you understand code, the languages like Java and Python, and even back at my old job, mainframe, right? That how you understand just the whole software development life cycle, having this foundational knowledge of coding can help you stand out in the job market. And then I'd also say too, just take advantage of any opportunities you get to learn, right? It's important to stay informed and up to date on all the latest trends and tools and techniques. So take online courses, attend workshops, sign up with Clarusway, right? There's hackathons, there's all these ways that you can just take advantage of opportunities to learn. And then some with barriers or setbacks, what I've also said, and a lot to some of my senior leadership here that are women, is I also say just stop apologizing, right? I feel like as women, we do a lot of it, right? In apologizing, or I want you to speak up. I tell them a lot of times when I hear them on calls, I want to hear their voice on a call. I don't want them to talk just to talk, but I want to hear that they're actively collaborating, engaging, and making themselves heard. And you get more confident when you do that. And so anyways, I always just tell them stop apologizing. But those are some kind of key takeaways I would give back for that question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for replying to all these questions, Sarah. And I would like to encourage people that are our attendees, like if they have some question, they can ask from the question and answers part, because my question may be a bit boring. I don't know. So if you have any questions, just let us know. Okay. Oh, so there's just a thank you message from Sarah. I believe I thought that there was a question. Anyway, so if you have any questions, just let us know. Till we get another question, I want to talk about a topic that is not very pleasant, actually. Okay, so that is the situation with all the layoffs that we are hearing a lot about these days. Can you talk a bit about how is the situation with the layoffs in tech industry, and what is your opinion in this situation? Like, what is going on? How it will be? What are the challenges?
Yep, I think there's several reasons why we're seeing layoffs right now. I think first and ultimately it's economic factors, right? The economic impact of COVID led to business, like a downturn in business activities, which I think has affected the tech industry. We also have had a shift in priorities. Many tech companies are shifting their priorities due to changes in their clients and consumer behavior and preferences. And I feel like COVID was a big catalyst in some of those cases. So I just think it's led to restructuring and some job cuts, and it's not what we want to hear, but ultimately our market has peaks and valleys, right? there's other industries, Disney, Amazon, I mean, that are doing layoffs as well, not just tech industry. I think we're hypersensitive to it because we're all in it. So, when we hear that they're doing these, whether that's Dell and Accenture just recently, that like I said, we get hypersensitive to it and maybe worry, but IT jobs aren't going anywhere. I think it's just the market, and when inflation's so high, and really not to get into all the nerdy banking stuff of that, there's things that we have to do to correct the market. And so I don't think that there's, in my opinion, anything indicative into why the tech industries. I just think COVID, we all couldn't go anywhere for 2 years, right? So a lot of these different industries changed and companies had to adapt, and then now we're semi back to normal and they're having to adapt again. And some folks had to ramp up, and we had supply chain issues. I think it was just a lot of different factors across the board. And so I think you're just seeing companies now restructure, and that unfortunately at times means job cuts. But like I said, IT jobs, in my opinion, aren't going anywhere. And so I think just staying on top of your skill and working for companies that have been around and have good reputation and a good business model is, really sound advice. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. I mean, and also, as they say, right, bad news spread much faster than good news. So, it's like, especially with the media, it's very easy to make a news about how people are losing their jobs, and everyone will read it. And the same goes with the AI, I believe, with all the news that, ChatGPT is here, we are going to be, all are going to be jobless. That's kind of news, they attract attention. All right. So thank you for your opinion. Now we do have some questions. You can go one by one. You can choose or to answer.
Okay.
If you can see them, of course.
Have you ever felt you were in competition, or somebody was making you their competition in a workplace, and how did you overcome or deal with that? Absolutely. I felt that. I like I'm a competitive person. I like it. To me, I'm also kind of a sick personality that I thrive in chaos. I like to take chaos and make process and procedures out of it. But I would say, if you look at competition as something to challenge yourself, right? Always be competitive within yourself first, as in how ways you can improve. But I think that it's healthy, right? But if it's to a point in the workplace that, you feel it doesn't feel good, if you're okay talking to that person, I would always say, in any of my folks that I've managed, I've always said, I want you to try to take care of the problem, right, yourself. If you can't, I need you to have, to understand when you should escalate or when you should ask for help, right? Whether that's from your HR or your direct line manager, but always reach out to that person, because a lot of times it's just communication, right? That it hasn't been clear or concise. And but I think some healthy competition is okay, but if it's something that, like I said, doesn't feel good, get with that person. If you don't feel comfortable or safe getting with that person, I would get with an HR representative if you have one at that company, or with your manager. And maybe getting a perspective from the outside in can help you look at it from a different angle as well. But like I said, not everyone has to have the same personality as me too. I always loved it because I wanted to win. I thought, if you're going to be competitive with me, then let's go, right? But not everybody's like that. And so I would say that's a tough one, but use the resources you have around you and your managers, to kind of figure out that landscape and, if it's a healthy competition or not.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And like some question may be a bit repetitive. If you believe that it's a repetitive question, we can skip that. If some of the questions attract your attention, then you can answer them.
Okay, so I'm going to go down to, do you have advice when pivoting to tech late in your career? This one's a great one. And in my staff meeting yesterday, they get sick of me saying it, but what I constantly tell them is the number one kind of soft skill I look for in folks is that they're able to pivot. It means if you're on a phone with a client and you thought that they wanted X, that when you find out they want Y, you can quickly pivot. And, your mind just is a step ahead where you can start solutioning or start figuring out the challenges that they're facing. And so my advice is, when to be able to pivot is is keeping up on soft skills like being innovative, right? Collaborating. I think it's never too late to pivot. I've had a friend that at 40 decided they want to go back to med school, which sounds crazy to me, right? By the time that they're done, I hope to be winding down, right, on that road to retirement. But I think that it's never too late because I differ with folks that say, right, that they, if you find, I think it's great when people say you find a job you love, then you never work a day in your life, right? And I tend to think too is like, if it's something you're passionate about and going to work every day seems mundane and you're not happy, it's never too late. I mean, pivot, find a new skill. Clarusway, because of programs like this that believe that anyone, as long as you are open to learning and retaining knowledge and a hard worker, you can do any job you want in IT. So my advice would be do it. Don't think about it because you're going to overanalyze it, but just do it.
Thank you, Sarah. And I just want to add something. This was the case with one of my, let's say, one of my friends. Like she was doing a full stack development boot camp, and actually she was always complaining. It was very interesting about how she couldn't, how she, was not happy, and then the most interesting thing that she was the first one from our group of 20 people to find a job. She went into an internship. And after 3 months, she got the job. So, we definitely encourage people to go. The important is, to know, because tech industry is a very wide term. So we do have data science, let's say boot camps, AWS, DevOps, full stack, cybersecurity. So important is to find what really interests you, and then the rest is all about hard work, I believe.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to continue with another topic, which is a bit more interesting. So sometimes we get into we are hearing a lot about artificial intelligence. I think the last time it was about Microsoft Copilot, and we are hearing about ChatGPT. At the same time, Google is working on artificial intelligence. So how do you feel about this kind of news? I mean, do they really interest you? Like, how do you think, are they going to shape our future? Like, what is your takeaway on this position? What is your opinion? Let's focus on artificial intelligence, because that is the topic of the day nowadays.
Yeah. AI, I am obsessed with right now. I've started piloting in LSI, right? ChatGPT, Google, Bing, all of them. And again, I think when I think back, it's like the Y2K experience again. We thought all of these negative connotations or bad things that were coming. I don't think we should fear it. I think we embrace it. However, as we've seen in social media industry as of late, we need to ensure that there's governance and protection accompanying it, right? And how we use it. But I mean, AI, I think it's such the hot topic right now. I feel like I read on it like 2 hours a day, and, watch TikTok to have all these different tutorials on how they're bringing it into Excel and Word. And I mean, I love it. And again, I just think we've done this throughout hundreds of years, where we industrialize or new technology, things happen. It's created more jobs. We have more jobs now than we ever have, right? And to me, I think it enhances that. It doesn't hinder, and no one, like I said, should fear it. I just feel like we should embrace it, but ensure that there is proper governance around it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's like the case with the horse, cars, and cars, right? Like people for cars, okay, we're going to be jobless, but now we've got more jobs due to the cars. All right, and I would like to ask another question, actually, which is about rewarding experiences. Like, if you can share, of course, because this is a bit of a personal question, but is there any moment where like you were really proud of what you achieved or really proud of what you did? Any of those kind of happy moments when you thought that I feel so good that I'm here, I feel so good that I'm doing this kind of job?
Yeah, I think when you get into leadership roles, there's things that are rewarding and make you feel great every day, right? Helping in the personal development of your employees. But, when I think of tech and some of my biggest rewards, in my former position, I stood up digital signature. I brought in DocuSign, did a proof of concept on 3 major use cases that went successful, and created a 5-year roadmap. And to talk about it in post 2010, I mean, everyone's like, who doesn't use e-signature or DocuSign? But a lot of your banks run on legacy infrastructure, mainframes, where they have hundreds of disclosures that wet signature, right? And so to me, it was such a big deal to take a bank that's been around 100 years and to bring in, to show them and prove to them with proof of concepts. And that, I like that, because I tell even my folks today, right, is not everything has to be, and everyone's in agile versus our traditional way of how we operate, or DevOps and such. But it doesn't always have to be this big bang, as in, okay, we're going to implement, an HRIS system, or we're going to implement an accounting system. You can do tinier use cases or a proof of concept to ensure that helps you tighten up scope, just different things of that nature. But that is one of my biggest ones, because we took, in some cases, a 14-day loan process down to 3 with implementing digital signature. But another one I think too is transitioning my workforce from traditional IT roles to Agile and Scrum teams. When people are afraid of change, it's because I found, right, that they fear or doubt their role in it. And so I was able to successfully map all the different roles into different Scrum teams, and really prove to them that the work they're doing is the same. They just now have really this less bureaucracy and overhead that goes along with it. So really kind of just transformational projects have been my biggest reward, in my IT career. But
okay, thank you. It's nice to hear that. I mean, because it's not very easy to work as a team, I guess. And I actually personally have always been kind of afraid of working on a team. Some people maybe are not very good collaborators. So creating the right system, you're working with Agile is not very easy for everyone. As long as it works well, then you get your rewards. Now, I have a question from Ikra, right? I think she mentioned how we can pronounce her name. Yes, it's Ikra. And it's a very interesting question about networking. So one of the most important things to get a job, or to get started, is about networking. So she is asking if you have any tips for networking and establishing connection as a young adult with little job experience.
Absolutely. So networking to me is another critical, key factor. I think most of my job and position changes were from individuals who recruited me after being on a project with me, or were the vendor at the time we were using. I had several, and networking can come in different forms, right? You can join the Women in Tech, and that's great too, but networking is also cross-functionally within your teams in, the different areas. And I would say to always pick, with networking, pick folks that you maybe necessarily wouldn't pick, right? It's like ones that you would be, maybe their area doesn't interest you as much, but networking can come not just at seminars and conferences, and the different organizations that we go and attend, but it's with your vendors too, because I feel like in this day and age, companies are really hard on vendors and contractors, right? And I was always different. I was very stern and had expectations, but I created relationships with them, and I had big companies like Fiserv and DocuSign that would ask me to be references for them on their next potential clients, right? And so that's networking that I've then had to ask favors from them for, different clients I have in the industry now that I'm in. And, so I'm always saying pay it forward. There's other ways that you can network. And I think a big one is, with the relationships you have, being in a contracting situation with vendors, working with clients. So not just, networking internally or with women, but a great way too is when is mentoring, right? So if you want to find a mentor, I always tend in my past, history to choose men mentors. I wanted to know their way of thinking. I thought if I can make a believer out of them, I can make it out of anyone. I wanted to learn. And even a couple of times, like I said, I chose somebody that I maybe necessarily wouldn't be my first choice to be connected or a friend with, right? So it was always somebody that's going to challenge me. They're a lot different personality, different views, maybe different industry they're in or skill sets. So I would say just branch out, but there are other ways to network. And I would say online is such a great community now too. Since COVID is, but get out and meet folks in person if you can, right? If they hold a cocktail hour or, happy hour where everyone's going to meet up, whatever that looks like, and stay with the groups, like Clarusway, if you graduate in one of these boot camps, stay connected with those folks, even though you guys are all going your different ways. There were a lot of trainings, kind of boot camps I came out of that they created these kind of Facebook groups after we were done. So we were done, everyone's back to their normal lives, their normal jobs, whatever's going on. And these kind of Facebooks, they called them like power partners, right? We still checked in with them once a week. We'd have to get on this Facebook group a couple times a month. There's just ways for you to stay connected and interact, because I know we get busy and the first thing that we want to push off our, in prioritization is our family is first and work, but to keep those network connections alive, because and to always pay it forward if you can, right? Like scratch their back, because in the end they will. Some of the vendors I have, I'm still great friends with them today, and I've gotten to go to football games and NCAA championships and just crazy things they invited me to because I would be their reference, or I would go and talk at their symposium about our use case. So it's just being open to any of those opportunities that come your way.
Sarah, so thank you very much. And here, since we were talking about networking, I just want to add something very important now. And since this let's say this event is sponsored, or let's say is being possible by Clarusway, I want to add something. Now, one of the difference that Clarusway has from other boot camping is this career management system. So we were having a lot of career management service lessons actually during our let's say boot camp, and a lot of students have them. So it's not only about like learning those hard skills, but here at Clarusway, and we have one of our panelists. The panelist is Mr. Sam, is a great mentor when it comes to networking. So they taught us how to add people on LinkedIn, how to make connections. So this was just something that I wanted to briefly talk about and mention. And also I would like to thank Mr. Sam for being here among us. Now, I believe I have another question from Lucy.
What you guys do with that, and I love that, because Oscar and I talk about that a lot, is that they don't just drop you guys, right? When I went to PMP or different got Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer, when I left the class, I never heard from anyone else again, right? And the soft skills that you learn, or the business acumen, is just as important as the actual technical skill that you learned. And so I do love how Clarusway does that, and they don't leave you, right? That they're trying to teach you some other soft skills. And it's great, because I think my middle son at his school, they take a week where they're not doing their typical classes they do every day, right? And they have them write a resume and do mock interviews and like you just said with LinkedIn, what is LinkedIn? I know you guys are on all these other crazy social medias at their age, but here's what LinkedIn is, and Indeed, and those things are valuable. And I think Clarusway does such a great job with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we are really grateful to that part, especially with the mock interviews and the way how to prepare a CV, because it seems something really easy, right? Oh, what is the CV? What is a resume? Well, you write down what you studied and what you did, but like there's a totally different science and, let's say, math going on, and how recruiters see people, you know, how the CVs are being viewed, how they are automatically eliminated or they pass some certain tests. So yeah, definitely thanks for mentioning that, because I got a bit, let's say, excited when I talked about it. So you explained much better than me, so thank you for that. And we do have another question from Lucy. I think you kind of mentioned that you at the same you mentioned that you were you know, a working mother. So Lucy has a kind of similar situation. So maybe if you could give a short answer to her question.
Yeah, that's great. Balancing family life. That's great, Lucy. So I would say most of my career, I was a single mom of 2 boys. So I get it. I would say my advice to you is we have mom guilt, right? That's every single day, all day long. And I would just say, whatever your goals are and you're focused on, time is quality, not quantity, right? So if you're working and I would compare myself to other moms that I've worked every day since I've been 16 years old. And so, you know, I couldn't volunteer at their schools like they always did, or I was working and couldn't go on field trips, so I would just say, pick those moments, you know, of impact that you can have, and then toss that mom guilt out, right? The best thing that your kids can see is showing them that, you know, women can have a career and a family, that they can do it all, right? Because sorry, men don't ever have to apologize. And so for women, is what I said before, is don't apologize for it. I think it's the best thing, and it shows your kids what hard work, determination does. And you have to have a good support system. And like I said, being a single mom, it's harder to have really a partner at home. You know, you don't have that support system. I did have family that was close for a portion of that. And then I had to, you know, I found great nannies. I've had nannies throughout my life, au pairs, I mean, just different, you know, folks that could help you. And I had great friends and neighbors, but you do just have to build that support system. It may not look traditional, but it's just putting that in place. But I would say, you know, you can do it, and to go for it. And especially with this hybrid situation, it's a lot easier in this day and age, I feel like, to be able to, you know, you are at home. So if they're in school, you're not, you know, 40 miles away from them. But I commend you. I think it's amazing. And I would say, just, you know, don't apologize, work hard, and they'll get to see what it looks like to see, you know, a woman in the workforce kicking ass. So
okay, so I just want to thank you on Lucy's place and everyone that is here, all our attendees. So Sarah, first of all, I really want to say thank you, and it was a great pleasure for me to meet you and to get to know you. And now, like each story, right? Each beautiful story has an ending. So we are coming slowly to the end of this event. But usually, at least within traditional ways of stories, they also always have a message, right? We kind of said that message during the way. Usually we don't hide the message at the end. But so I would like to, if it is possible, I know that you gave a lot of advice. I know that you talked about a lot about it, but what, as the last message, what would you like to say to the young women who are starting their professional journey and they are aspiring to be leaders, innovators, but also to other women, you know, that want to make a professional change? Like, how would you like to let's say, what kind of advice do you have for them? So let's close this event with let's say with some inspirational advice.
I think to young or folks later, women later in life that are pivoting, I think some of the best advice I got is strong leaders bring everyone to the table. They're not afraid of people that know more than them or have a difference of opinion. Be open and fluid when solutioning, right? In IT companies, you have a lot of voices. And so it's, if people feel like they're heard, I think that that's half the battle. So it's just, don't be afraid to, you know, like we're kind of talking about competitive is a little bit different, but don't be afraid to bring all the people to the table to make them, you know, feel heard. And I also want to say too, is I do feel like women, you know, that are starting out versus pivoting, I do think that we talked about it a little bit before, that the tech industry is complex and we said constantly changing, but just to have a genuine interest in technology. And when I said it before, is in the ways it can improve our lives, right? That's the positive way. And you have an interest in, like we said, where you asked me about AI or virtual, that those things excite you and that you, you know, are looking forward to those, and that it doesn't scare you, right? Be confident that, I just want folks to think that it, you know, it's scary and to shy away from it. But then I think my biggest thing is I truly believe with hard work, dedication, willingness to learn, that you can succeed in any field in tech, but just take advantage of any of the opportunities you have to learn, right? So we talked about that being online courses, attending workshops, whatever that looks like, is just be a sponge and retain that knowledge, you know, of the opportunity, because there are people that don't get that opportunity to take advantage of ways they can learn. But I don't know. I think when Oscar had said, you know, it's women, he actually told me it was Women's Month, which I didn't know it was in March. So that's horrible. But when he'd asked me, I just thought it's in IT fields in general, right? I love that it is Women's Month and directed towards that. But I think with anyone, you guys are doing these boot camps or thinking about them, you're upskilling, you know, you care about the IT industry and where it's going, and you care about your skill set, and you learn some of these soft skills that, like I said, are just so important. So it's just, those are opportunities where you can take advantage to learn. And so, you know, I think those are my biggest things: hard work and dedication, and then being able, willingness to learn.
So thank you very much, Sarah. It was, you know, thank you for inspiring hopefully everyone here, and definitely inspiring me. And you know, I had this kind of conversation with my wife like 2 weeks ago. She's working as a teacher, so when like, should you go to the tech? She was kind of afraid. You know, I tried to pursue her. I told that I would support her like she supported me. So I definitely hope that people who are listening to us and want to pursue a tech career, of course, if they like and they feel that they like, because it's not only about, okay, 6 figures and money, but at the same time, it should be something that you like, go for it. And I hope they have people who also will support them. But even if no one supports you, definitely, you know, if you hard work, if you work hard, then you can do it. I would also like to mention to people who are listening to us that we shared a link of our tech community. We have a vibrant tech community. You know, you can join our Slack channels. There are thousands of people there. You know, like jobs are being shared, information, whatever, and we have a wide network there. So you can click and join us. So that was all for this afternoon. Thank you very much again for this lovely afternoon, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.